one arm row is a great exercise for runners. Any type of upper body pulling movement tends to be really good for runners for a couple of different reasons. So number one, in today's day and age, we spend so much time doing stuff in front of our bodies, whether that's typing on a keyboard, driving a car, texting. What that results in is a posture where we tend to be very tight on the front and everything is kind of hunched forwards. When we're running, we want the exact opposite of that. We want our shoulders to be open, we want our chest to be open, because that's gonna let us breathe more effectively and run a little bit more effectively. The other thing too is when we're very tight on the front and a little bit weak on the back, what our arm swing tends to do when we're running is rather than our chest being open and our arms swinging in parallel with our body, which is very efficient, as things get tight and hunched forwards, we tend to run with our swing across our body. So it's less efficient and also makes your core and your stabilizer muscles work a little bit harder because you have this rotational movement that you're trying to counter the whole entire time that you're running. So with that being said, anytime we can work some kind of an upper body pull, it's a great exercise for runners. So the one arm row really works on bringing those shoulders back, activating the shoulder stabilizers, and working on this motion of pulling backwards, which also helps us with that arm drive while we're running. Let's take a look at how to do it. Setup is pretty simple. All you need is a single dumbbell and a bench. You just need the one dumbbell because we're only working one side at a time. So one side can work while the other side is resting. To do the one arm row, I'm gonna set myself up with one knee and one hand of the same side on the bench. So to start with, I'm gonna put my left knee, my left hand on the bench, and the weight is gonna go in my right side. So that's gonna be what's gonna work first. So my knee is gonna go onto that bench, my hand is gonna go onto that bench, and I want a fairly straight line from my shoulder down to that bench and from my hip down to that bench. So I've got nice right angles here, I'm nice and supported. And then my right foot is going right underneath my hip, sitting on the ground right here. I've got the weight just in front of my toe there and I'm ready to pick it up. So from there, I'm gonna pick that weight up, get myself set, and this is the position that I'm gonna stay in. And so what I wanna focus on here is I don't wanna move the rest of my body. The only thing that should be moving is my arm and my shoulder on the right side. So you don't wanna be twisting, you don't wanna be moving forward and backwards. Nice and solid, everything's staying in place. And then with this, I like to think about this exercise. It's one movement, but it has kind of two phases to it. So the first phase, I'm extended all the way down and you can see my shoulder on this side is dropped down nice and low. So the first phase here is setting my shoulder blade. So I'm thinking about just squeezing that shoulder blade and locking it in place. So the first part of that motion is just coming from that shoulder. So I'm just doing this for the first part of that movement. So first phase is that locking in place. The second phase is the actual row. And so from here, I'm bringing that weight up to my chest and dropping it back down. So when you're getting started with this, if you want to practice two distinct phases, you can do that locking the shoulder in place, pulling up, lowering down, and then back. So you're essentially going through 4 distinct movements. And then as you get more comfortable with this, you can turn it all into one smooth movement, starting from the bottom, coming to the top, and back down. And that's gonna be your row. When you're finished, you can just set that weight back down on the ground, and then you just reverse this process. So my right hand and right knee are gonna go on the bench, and my left side is gonna work for the rest of the exercise. To increase difficulty on this, you're gonna wanna go up by 2.5 to 5 pounds on the dumbbell. Depending on if you're feeling like you're kind of towards the end of what you're capable of, but you want to go up just a little bit, 2.5 is going to be perfect. If you still feel like that exercise was fairly easy, jumping up by 5 pounds is going to be a great way to go. When you're doing this exercise, if you find that your shoulder bugs you because of a certain position, you can change your angle a little bit and it's going to kind of change up where your shoulder sits in the socket, and it might be a little bit more comfortable. So normally when we're doing this, we want our elbow to skim just kind of along our body and be just in line here. However, if I rotate that weight to maybe 45 degrees or so, that elbow is going to come out to the side a little bit more, and it might help just keeping that shoulder in kind of a different spot in the shoulder joint. If that still bugs you, you can even try rotating to 90 degrees and coming straight out to the side. You can play around with that, feel what works kind of and is the most comfortable for you. As runners, the most specific is gonna be if you keep your elbow along your side, because that's the type of motion that we do. However, if that bugs you, you're gonna get almost the same benefit out of the exercise if you change that angle up and do it just a little bit differently. If you don't have a dumbbell to do this exercise, you can also do it as a banded row. All you need is some type of a stretchy band and something nice and solid to loop it around. From there, you loop it around whatever it is that you're gonna be using, and then same thing, you can pull and go through that exact same motion. You can either do both sides at a time like this if you've just got a band looped around something, or if you tie that band off, then you can do one side at a time. Exactly the same exercise, you're just doing it in a slightly different way.